What up, everybody? This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast. Thank you once again for joining me, man. It has been so much fun doing this. I've got an amazing guest on today. His name's Jared Shaw, which you're going to hear his amazing story here in a minute. I'm just blown away at the feedback from all of you and the support. I just want to thank you for believing in me. Thank you for, sharing this, especially with people who are struggling, because it's given them, some hope and some belief that they can overcome anything. So I want to thank you. I also want to thank our sponsor, Veracity Networks. Thank you for believing in me. Your sponsorship has helped me get this word out too. I mean, I think Jared and I were just talking, and we just hit over 80,000 downloads. I mean, to me, that's incredible, man. And that just means a lot of people are going to be inspired today. So, Jared, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah. Well, so a little background on Jared. He's involved with, I guess you call it a Recovery Strong. Is it a company?
It's a brand.
It's a brand.
Yeah. And we are a company. But
yeah. And how long have you been doing Recovery Strong?
Oh, God, that's a good question. I think it's 2015, right around there when I about 9 months sober is when I started.
Yeah.
So.
So, and the reason why I bring that up right off the bat, it's a brand that's out there, and if you have anything to do with the recovery world, this brand, and it's beautifully done. But what's more important is the message behind it and the help that it's giving people, and we're going to get into that. Okay. You own your own company as well. Am I right? Is it Centerline?
Yeah, Centerline Development, construction company.
Which I want to get to know more about. He's married to a beautiful wife. He has 2 boys, which we'll talk about as well. He's been clean and sober now for going over 5 years now, and he just has an amazing story. He grew up just up north from Salt Lake, and we've been trying to do this for several months, and here we are, and I'm just excited to have you, Jared.
I'm so glad to be here. Yeah.
So why don't we start off just letting our listeners know a little background on you, kind of what was it like growing up and about your family? I'm
right in the middle of 5 other siblings. We got 3 boys, 3 girls.
Okay.
Good family, both parents together, loved us, and, we had enough. We weren't the rich family on the block, but we had all that we needed. And,
sure.
And so our family's really close, so close that we fight so much. We're always seeing each other. Yeah, we're going camping after this, all of us down to the Knolls to go ride razors tonight.
Nice.
We're trying to social distance out in the mountains or down riding 4-wheelers and stuff. But so a family, pretty active family. Just right in the middle, I guess. Yeah. And that's where kind of the story starts.
So growing up, what was it like? I mean, being the middle child, was that challenging, or did you not even really notice it?
I noticed it because of sports.
Okay.
We talked about Tyler Hansen's story, and this
sure,
is going to be a lot like it. I was right in the middle of this story, and my older brother was the athlete, and I was always in the shadow of him. And, so I was always trying to be better than I was, and I wasn't, and so that kind of stuff really stuck to me. Like in junior high is when all that, I'm not as good as everybody else at some of this stuff, sports, but I was decent, but I didn't know it. I didn't know at the time until later on in life the way I felt inside, like inferior and inadequate.
Right.
So
I would imagine you felt pressure to kind of like live up to that, what your brother was kind of doing.
Yeah, he was really good at soccer. So he was a soccer player. I played soccer, and he was on the best teams up there in Bountiful, and I wanted to be good, and I saw how good he was, and so I don't know that it was anything that my parents did or just the way I felt, but just kind of always in the shadow and trying to find my place in life with all those kids too. So that's interesting. I think I hear this a lot with sometimes the middle child feels like trying to compete with the older siblings, and I still have to even kind of be the example to the younger, and sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming. Yeah, it was. There's a lot of instances in there, like little things that happened that codified that feeling I had, like soccer tryouts, not making a team where he made it, stuff like that. So that grew to be kind of a resentment towards my older brother. Not anything crazy, but I can see it manifested itself later on in life through my drug addiction, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Well, let's talk about, growing up with your parents. Maybe share with us some of the things maybe they taught you that maybe at the time you didn't appreciate, but maybe you're seeing it more now.
Well, when talking about soccer and the tournaments, my dad, he works for the church. He's worked there his whole life. Since he had kids, and he works for the property management side of the church. And so on the weekends, this kind of goes into the story of how I started my own company. When we were little, to pay for soccer tournaments, we would go out on the weekends and do work, jackhammer holes out in the road and put in survey points for surveyors. And so when I was little, it's probably 7, 8, junior high, my friends would be out playing and I'd go work on weekends, and I really hated it. I hated it so bad.
Right, I bet.
But looking back, I'm so thankful because now I own a company that does that same thing, and I'm able to employ people. So it's kind of a gift and a curse, but yeah. So my parents were hard workers, loving, there's no complaints about my family. They're just awesome.
So it sounds like you learned, obviously at a young age, to work hard.
He tried to show me. I didn't know if I learned.
Maybe not at the time, but but that's what was being cultivated.
It was instilled in me, but I wasn't the best. I fought, and sometimes he would just leave me home because I threw such a fit, waking up in the morning. And
it's like, come on.
Yeah, he just wanted some help to go help him. Looking back, I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have been a little bit better and a little bit, for all they did for me. So and that helped pay for our soccer tournaments, and we had to earn our way. So
very cool. What was it like, like say in high school, were you a confident kid? Did you walk around feeling pretty confident, or did you?
I thought I was, but looking back later in life, once again, in retrospect, the Lord tab feeling, that I had, that's when I had it in high school. So I was confident, but I was careful with who I was friends with too, because I didn't want, and I was making friends with people that I was scared of. So that way I could protect myself. I was good at meeting people, good at talking to people. And so I figure, keep your enemies closer type attitude, in high school. So I guess there was fear, but not anything that I noticed until later on in life. I didn't realize why I some of the behaviors manifested themselves. But looking back, yes, I was a scared kid, fearful of a lot of things. But I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know it.
Right, you didn't know it. Yeah. Well, so we mentioned at the beginning of this, you've been clean and sober now for over 5 years, which is, again, congratulations. That is
a blessing every day.
Yeah, a blessing and a miracle. And I know you would agree with that.
Yes.
So let's talk about, let's go back, obviously. What happened, and how did you get kind of wrapped up in maybe the drug scene or the partying scene? Or
so the first time I ever took a Lord tab, that was the first time I ever felt high, but I didn't know that I was high. I was a sophomore in high school and we were building portables for the other classes. We were in a construction class, and I remember that morning I felt I had a headache, and so I went to my mom's medicine cabinet and I found a pill, take as needed for pain. So I took one. Yeah. And I remember that feeling I was up on the top of the portable and just felt like everything was okay. Just that awesome feeling. And that's the first time I ever felt high. But at the time I didn't realize that was a high. I just thought something, something was different that day.
Right.
And it wasn't like I went and sought that feeling, every day from then on. But later on, that was probably, I think it was my sophomore year. And then my junior year, I had a friend that was a pharmacy tech at his dad's pharmacy. And so that's when things kind of started taking off, where I realized pills were awesome because you can't smell pills on your breath. Right. Mom can't tell, really.
Yeah, it's a good way to hide it.
Yeah, and so he would steal pills from his dad's pharmacy and bring them to work. And it was probably to school or on the weekends. It was a weekend thing, and it wasn't every weekend, but so I did that here and there. And I didn't drink until I was a senior, I think. Okay. So I didn't touch alcohol till then. I could be off on that a little bit, but it wasn't like it was right out the gate, partying and doing stuff. But and I got 2 alcohol tickets the first day I drank. First night I went and talked to a cop at
Really?
the gas station. It was our police or school cop.
School cop?
Yeah, he was at the
wow.
gas station, and I had a couple in me, and I was so stupid. I walked up to him thinking, "Hey," and he's like, "Have you been drinking?" And I got busted. So, but that was the start of
you should have used that as like, maybe I shouldn't go down this road, right?
No, you would
I'm already
think.
getting busted.
Yeah, you would think.
So that you're saying that around your senior year, are you still doing pills and stuff on the weekends and stuff at that point?
Yes, and it's and then injuries, from playing sports, getting more pills, and then I'm realizing, okay, this is fun. I can, it becomes more involved. My weekends become more involved, and finally, I got kicked off the soccer team my senior year because of not going to school, and my focus became partying versus school. I wasn't ever good at school. I liked the social, things at school, but I just I started missing school a lot more, and then soccer and all the sports just kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah,
and social events were my thing.
So by the time you're a senior, then you get kicked off the team, and at this point, do your parents know there's a problem?
I think I think, like I said, there's 5 of us, and there's a lot going on, and so
busy.
I don't think that they noticed a whole lot. They just thought, what are you doing? Like, you're ruining things, because my brother, they took state the year he was a senior, and then my year. But there was a few people of our friends that year that got kicked off the team because they got really strict with drinking. And my best friends were the team captains, and they had to kick people off. Because I got kicked off because of attendance, not because I got caught at a party. But a couple of our friends, they did kick them off because of that. But yeah, mine was attendance related. But all it would have taken was one night, and there was other things going on that would have been kicked off. So, so they noticed, the downfall of some things, but it wasn't that crazy. I graduated barely. So, my grandpa taught at the high school I went to, and he put out a lot of fires for me. And attendance wise, so I had people starting to like cover my tracks. So I learned how to use relationships and to fix the things that I did wrong, manipulate people. So and they were enabling your behavior by covering your tracks, right? Yeah, and I don't think they noticed it, but but now, looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Grandpa, he's up there in heaven. I'm like, sorry I did that to you, but thank you.
Well, he'd be really proud of you right now, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, let's talk about how that progressed, because obviously things got worse. So you graduate barely. Mm-hmm. So just kind of take us through your story there.
Graduate, chased a girlfriend down to UVSC. First day down there, I was trying out for their soccer team. I broke my kneecap, couldn't work, and so I went in. That's when, she's down. I'm losing my girlfriend because she's at BYU, and I can't be here anymore because I broke my kneecap and I can't work and pay for school. And so that doctor, I kept calling to get more pills. I moved back home, and that's kind of where it started getting a lot worse, right? Because I had a lot more time on my hands, and then I wasn't using the pills for the kneecap pain. It was emotional pain more and more. I realized it was helping me cope.
Okay, gotcha.
And so the loss of a girlfriend, basically. And the one time I went fishing, I was at home, and I took a whole bottle of pills in the back of my truck, and I went up fishing up in the mountains, came back home, and I think I took like 30 that day. Or maybe pills. A day or two. I can't quite remember, but I got back and I left the empty bottle. So it was like 2 or 3 days since the prescription was filled. I left it in the bed of my truck, and my dad saw it. And I think that was the first time they were like, you've got, he came and talked to me and said, are you okay? Do you have a problem? And that was kind of the first realization that, I think I might, but I wasn't ready to get sober at that point. That was just kind of the beginning points of it. So, yeah. Wow. And then I went to Utah State after a few years, tried to do Utah State. I wanted to be an animal science. My goal was to be a veterinarian.
Oh, really?
And that didn't go very far, because then I found Oxycontin, and that just really took a hold of me. And then that was the first time I used every day. The first time Once you used that once, you kind of like, it changed all things.
Changed everything, yeah.
I was seeking that every day, and that was the first time I felt physical withdrawals, after I was in Lake Powell. So I started using about May. OxyContin. That was the first time that I really used it.
Okay.
And I used it for, daily for a few months. We had a family Lake Powell trip. I think it was late June or early July. And I remember getting down there. That's when the withdrawals hit, and I didn't know about withdrawals.
Oh,
and
so you weren't prepared.
Yeah,
You didn't
so
have
I probably,
with you.
I probably got high on my way down or something.
Right.
But I was so naive about everything that, I got down there and I was like, and I was just, that's when the flu feeling hit, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
so
I'm in trouble.
Yep. So I survived it though. And
did your family notice that?
No, I don't think so. I think I was able to hide it because there's so much going on the houseboat. You can you're tired, people are sleeping all day long if they want. So it's, so I just or I've got a stomach ache type feeling, and I still didn't know. I didn't correlate it quite yet that it was the drug use that was making me feel this way. And I could have convinced myself that maybe I ate something, at that time.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Just naive.
Naive. Well, so jumping back a little bit, so you go down to school, it doesn't work out, you break your kneecap, and the girl that you were in love with at the time, it broke it off, it didn't work out or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine, are you still going through some emotional, like feeling sad and depressed and hopeless kind of thing?
It was, I mean, this girl was everything to me, like she was my high school girlfriend, and she was the one, and
I'm gonna
so,
marry her,
yeah, exactly.
and
so at the time, man, I would have chased her anywhere. And so I chased her to BYU. She probably didn't want me to go to UVSC, whatever it was, UVU. Right. And I probably followed her down. She's probably like, come on, don't follow me. I'm trying to move away from you. But so there was just a lot of like wanting validation, wanting to feel loved and wanting to be okay, and she was a beautiful girl. And like, I just figured I'd never get somebody like her again,
right.
So, but just a lot of, and once again, another failure, another setback, barely graduate high school, all these things. I'm not that good at sports. I'm just kind of mediocre at everything.
So what was your belief about you at that time?
Probably I was trying to prove something to the world. I was trying to find my way, but I just wasn't quite good enough. I wasn't good enough. I didn't fit in.
Yeah.
All my friends had the set life, they had the wealthy parents and had everything. They were off to school, and I just felt like I was shorthanded. I got this short stick.
Right.
So, but I didn't. Looking back, it's awesome to be able to sit here
it's
today.
It's easy to look back.
Yeah.
Right.
At the time, I probably hated my parents. Why couldn't you make more money? That's where probably a lot of resentment came from, which I feel guilty today even thinking that, because we had
everything
we needed.
Right.
So maybe just not some of the emotional connection
for sure
we needed to.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So you're now taking OxyContin every day.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that and just where that led to. And
oh man, that was pure hell. That is a nasty. I never, in all my drug use, I never used heroin or anything like that, but it's the same thing. It was my way of being safe. And even this last bout, just with the Lord tabs and stuff, because that's what I ended up using, because OxyContin changed their formula and it just made it harder to use. And so I went back to Lord tabs, but just the whole game of, and that's kind of where I started my construction company, was with OxyContin. And OxyContin tore me down, but it did show me how to work the first part of the use of it, because it gave me energy, it gave me drive, it made me talk to people, engage. I felt like if I was high, I could call anybody, and I was finally equal, or better than.
Yeah.
And so
this is a good point you bring up, Jared. Like, so here you have this belief. And again, all of us go through this, but you had this belief that on some level you just weren't good enough, right?
Yes.
So here you are, and it's interesting you say what you did, and I want our listeners to catch what you just said. You felt that when you were taking that OxyContin, that you all of a sudden felt equal with other people. That was interesting that you said that, like, I can call anybody, I can do anything. And you even said it helped lead you to even creating your company.
It gave me the confidence I lacked, and I remember feeling that way. That I was working at a law firm, being a runner downtown, and I started this business when I had some spare time, and I would do some OxyContin, and I'd make a phone call to a developer, and I just felt like I could sell it, like no sales training at all. Just something in it just gave me that confidence, and I could talk to that person, and so. that helped me build some clients, and it still was manageable at the time. I mean, I was sick, but it wasn't keeping me away, unless, so later on it really tore me apart. But my thoughts in my head were the more money I make, the more drugs I can do. And it's a perfect plan, and it's just naive once again.
Isn't that funny how you think it like that?
It worked for like 3 months.
Yeah.
But
that's why it's so deadly, because you're thinking, why wouldn't I take this? Because look what it's allowing me to do. And I've got all this confidence. No wonder you people get stuck in that, because who wouldn't want to feel confident?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
But that's where it's deadly, because like you just said, it doesn't last.
Nope.
It's synthetic. It's not real. And then, I mean, when I'm saying not real, the confidence is synthetic.
Yeah.
Because it's enhanced by something outside of you.
Yeah.
Right? So
Sure.
talk about that 3 months later.
Just trying to build the business, and I ended up losing it to my brother, my older brother. So once again, he comes into the story and takes what I've, built. It wasn't much of a company at that point, but I had.
But again, it reinforces the belief you're not good enough to.
I can't even open a checking account, because finally I was taking checks in my personal name, and then finally developers needed some sort of entity to write have insurance, all this stuff I've never heard of. And I actually needed a business account, so the checking account, or the banks wouldn't give me
wouldn't even do that.
Yeah, because I owed them money. So, and I have no credit. So that's when my older brother took it over, because he could see something was happening with the business. It was making a little bit of money, but so he took it over. I had to give it to him, and then we kind of ran it together, and he saw that I was, the way I was acting, the things, it was starting to manifest itself. My powerlessness, my unmanageability. And so he took it over, but I still felt entitled. And so I ended up taking money from the company. I kind of snaked my way into getting a client to write me a personal check for $10,000 for a job we did. And I went and burned it in Vegas.
Like over a weekend?
Yeah, weekend, and I was stuck in Vegas with no money. There's a lot more to that, but that's kind of the short story of that. And in the meantime, I ran out all that money, but it was payday. So I called my brother, hey, my other truck was at the shop. Can you leave my paycheck on or maybe I was back at this time. Mm-hmm. I needed money, and he went to go drop a check off at the shop in my console of my truck, but he saw the other check stub from that company to me. And so I got busted stealing company funds. And, and that's kind of where it all just, we had a big family meeting, and that was the first time I ever went to treatment, when they called me out. And, but I felt like it was, every piece of me felt like I deserved every dime of that. But looking back, I'm like, man, what a mess. Like, it was all about me. I deserved everything, get out of my way.
And that's one of the other, I mean, there's many negatives to addiction, but that's one of the biggest ones, is we become really selfish. It's all about me. I don't care if this hurts you, and because people who know you, and I know a lot of people who know you, you're like the nicest guy. You're the greatest guy. They love you.
Appreciate that.
So back then you were going against who you really were.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. And, and I just, luckily that happened. Luckily I took that $10,000. Luckily my brother found that. Luckily all these things happened, because that is what brought the family together. Yeah. And finally, after a big meeting about, my grandparents were there, I'm the only addict in the family. Right. So out of 6 people, I'm the one that has the disease of addiction. And, I just remember being upstairs yelling and fighting, because my ego was so big. I started this company, yet I couldn't even open a checking account. It's just so. And finally, my sister was there, and she just asked, do you need help? And that was when, like, that simple question.
Simple question.
Yeah, I just broke down all my walls, and I just was like, yes, and then within 3 days I was into treatment. So for the first time, that was my first time in treatment. And, I was able to stay sober for a little while. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit of that. I was 23 at this time.
23? Yeah. Okay. You mentioned something I want to point out. You said, luckily, my brother found that check stub. Yeah. Luckily, he brought it to my attention and called me out on it. And I want to point that out, because I think it's interesting, because what I'm hearing you say is you're looking at that as a blessing. Yeah. Because had that not happened, you would have kept going the path you're going, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have stolen more. Who knows? It could have been another weekend where I overdose. I drive a company truck and I hit a family and I kill them. There's just so many things that could happen. And so luckily that didn't happen.
I love that you say that, because I point out to my listeners and my clients all the time that life happens for us.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of the toughest, horrific times, it's actually happening for us. Or in other words, it's a blessing.
Yep.
We may not see it in the moment, but like you said, when we look back, we go, oh man, I am so glad that happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Just the whole experience of it, because I can still feel the, how blind I was to what my actions were. I was just so caught up in addiction and everybody owed me something. Right. And so how could you do this to me? And then feeling the 180-degree shift of ego, and then the spirit of my sister being somebody who comes in and asks a simple question instead of yelling at me and telling me I'm a piece of crap, which that's what I felt like my family was saying.
Right.
She kind of just opened things up with just that. She was the one that needed to say what needed to be said at that time. Yeah. And I responded. I was on the same frequency as her.
Yeah. So so you go to treatment, and you get out of treatment. Mm-hmm. And so you relapsed
18 months. Yeah.
You made it 18 months.
Yeah, I made it 18 months. My grandpa died. And I don't blame it on that, but I was young. I feel like I was really young at the time. But it was my first taste of recovery. I was able to learn about AA, learn about the steps, learn about the disease model of addiction. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was an LDS kid who just used substances, and all my friends were normal. I was somebody, I just thought I was broken again. Yeah. So to go into treatment and learn about the disease of alcohol and drug addiction was the coolest thing ever. And I really loved it. And I graduated. It was up in Park City, at Renaissance Ranch, and I drove every day to aftercare. I ran my business. I still worked.
Doing your
And so, but I graduated, and that was the first thing I ever graduated. And I still have the little badge that they gave me, because that was like
a lot of pride in it.
Yeah, the one thing I followed through, and I gave it all I knew how to give. And so.
So you have, obviously you have a relapse after 18 months. Did that last for a long time?
Yeah, that was
okay. Let's talk about that.
5 or 6 years. So it was up until the point where I just got sober again.
Wow. Okay. So then you go hard again for another 5+ years.
And it wasn't necessarily OxyContin this time, because like I said, they changed the formulation, and what happened was I hired an employee who one day at work, how. Just, hey, do you want to buy some Lortabs? And I had been sober long enough that I thought, I can handle this again.
Yeah, I can do it.
So I'm like, I've been all right. And
how often do we hear that?
Yeah, no kidding. It doesn't work, guys. If you want to save yourself pain and heartache, you're not cured. Yeah. You can, but so I'm like, let's do it. And so I bought some from him, and then that's when I think I bought 5 or 6 Lortabs at that time, which is a small dose, from the amount of OxyContin I was using. So I was like, okay, it's not that much. But then I started taking it every day, and, and every day I had to have it. And I was still running my business, and I was spending hundreds of dollars a day by the end of it. And I was taking a lot of Tylenol in those pills. If the Lortabs weren't going to kill me, the opiate, the Tylenol was killing my liver. And so I would check my, and once again, naive about Tylenol. I didn't know that it was bad for you. Like I just saw a drug that I could take to get me high. I didn't know all the side effects of that drug. And so one day I took I couldn't get my Lortab 10 milligrams. So I got 5s from a guy. And so to get my dose, I had to double the dose I'm taking double the amount of acetaminophen. And I remember, 12 hours later, I started puking bile and just, and then I'm like, something's wrong? So something clicked in me to Google or call poison control, because I'm like, there's something wrong with me. And at this time, my parents think I'm still doing okay. They're probably worried about me because of actions.
They're probably noticing that something's off.
But I haven't come out and said, I need help, or I'm using again. I tried to hide it. And so I call poison control, and I tell them how many I took, and they said, you need to go to the emergency room. So I can't remember the total amount, but so I remember just getting in my truck, drive into the emergency room. First time in the emergency room is using pills. Been there for other things, but as a drug overdose. And so I go in, I get checked in, I'm crying, I'm praying to God that I'm not going to die. And the nurse is telling me, okay, well, this is what happens if your liver's going into failure. And so they draw my blood, and in the meantime, while everyone's out of the room, like I said, I'm praying, bargaining with God. I will never do this again. And doctor comes back in and tells me all of the Tylenol's out of my body. Like I didn't have any, it metabolized it really well.
Out. Yeah.
So first thing my addict brain tells me is I've got a killer liver. So all those prayers, all those prayers and cries to God at that, like 10 minutes. Yeah. 10 minutes before that, disease takes over, and I'm walking out the front door and I'm calling my dealer again to get more pills, because it'd been almost 24 hours. Right. And it went on, but I could tell I was taking more and more, and I just started Googling more about acetaminophen poisoning and what happens to your liver. So now I'm really feeling the effects of like internal physical pain, and like what's going to happen if my liver goes out, and I'd check my eyes, make sure they weren't yellow from jaundice, just all these things and if they weren't, I was good to go that day. So a lot of fear, like just it was a scary time to live. But not enough fear. Yeah, it didn't, just enough. And then I used again, and that fear went away once again. Sure. But it was a scary time in my life, and I'm super grateful that we have amazing bodies that repair and heal itself. I probably did a lot of damage, but I get checked every year or two for
just to
liver
make sure.
stuff, and I'm healthy, which is amazing for what I probably took a few years off my life, but today I'm grateful.
I'm grateful too that you're here, dude. Yeah. And I love what you're doing now, and I know there's a lot to your story that we can get into, but as you're talking, I wanted to talk about your relationship, if you're comfortable with it, with your higher power, with God.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Like, how has that helped you to get to where you're even at right now?
It's a ever changing relationship, I think. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to sit here and be like, I've got the most awesome relationship with my higher power. Right. I'm the guy that struggles daily to connect with him. Sure. I take a lot of ego, but I'm working constantly. I know that his hand is in everything. And I try to acknowledge him in all things, but then ego comes back, and I forget. Like when things are going good, I forget. Yeah. But that's what I love about where I'm at today is I can know that I'm not being 100%, and you're never going to be 100%. I'm seeking to find him still.
Gotcha.
And I know he's out there, and I know that it's a cool question because it makes me really. I know that there's something out there, and that something is helping me.
Yeah.
And really seeking that answer is my journey right now. And it's cool because if I'm sober, I know I 100% believe in my higher power.
Right.
It's me that forgets that he's there.
Yeah.
And
I think most people hearing you right now probably can relate with that.
Yeah. Well, I get nervous because I want to be the guy that, that can just firmly, stamp on the desk and be like, I know, but today, most of the times I know, but I forget.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, what it tells me, Jared, you're just human, and I love what you're saying. You're just being humble about it, and that's powerful. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. I know sometimes that's a really sensitive question, but thanks for being real with us. I love that. Yeah. Thank you, man. Mm-hmm. So I want to, now you've been clean 5 years, and you're doing some great stuff. Let's talk about some of this good stuff you're doing right now. You've got a brand called Recovery Strong.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, and where did that come from, and how did you, and what's your plans with all of that?
Yeah, that's another good question. So it's I started that. So going back to a little bit to the liver thing.
Oh yeah,
please, the body and
yeah.
I started doing a lot of cycling when I started using drugs, road biking. Doing some long distance road biking, and so when I got sober. The last time I did a race, I quit at 80 miles and I was high on Adderall and all this stuff, and I feel like I really hurt my heart when I was racing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I got, so that was in October of 2014, this race. And so I got sober in January of 2015. And, I started riding bikes when I was about 60 days sober again. I wanted to focus on recovery. I wanted to just work on my spiritual and my emotional and mental health, and physical could wait. So at 60 days sober, I finally, and it was cold, so finally March comes around and I'm like, hey, I can get on my bike again. But I had a new purpose finally. I finally felt again. And and speaking about higher power, there's nothing more spiritual than being on a road bike, riding up a canyon and looking at all the beautiful scenery.
Beauty,
and then that's when I know there's somebody out there watching over and protecting me. And so, but then I started learning about like, bonking on a bike, sugar and your liver and how your liver's processing glycogen. Right. I'm not going to sit and think I know everything about it. But so when I did Lotage, I did Lotage 9 months sober, which is a 206-mile bike race.
Jeez.
And so I liked Lance Armstrong Live Strong Foundation. And that's where I thought one day in treatment, my counselor asked how we're going to change the name of recovery or change the stigma of addiction. And I thought of that. I said, Recovery Strong, and so it just kind of came to me because of the Live Strong stuff. And
sure.
And it was like within a couple weeks, I owned the website and I owned nobody owned the name at that point. And so it just kind of happened. Huh? Yeah. And so that's where the name came from. I was 9 months sober approximately and started doing cycling and just wanted to raise awareness of what we can do when we get sober. A guy that was broken, wondering if his liver was going to fail. Right. Now I'm doing long distance riding and I'm not the fastest. I'm just happy to cross the finish line.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So 9 months sober.
That's awesome.
Doing a 12-hour bike ride through the Tetons, or not Tetons, but through Wyoming and stuff. And so that's another one of those little battles. The Lotage race, at 9 months, like I can do hard things. You hear that all the time. We can do hard things. Yeah. That was another one of those hard things in recovery that I did, and it just instilled this confidence. Finally, confidence is coming in naturally, in positive ways instead of through substances. The substance is good, I guess. So yeah. So that's kind of where the name started.
Gotcha.
And and now it's just a cool brand that we play around with. And, we started a workout at my sister's gym. She owns a gym up in Layton, and we would have been having our 2-year anniversary like this week. Cause a treatment center shut down in Davis County. Okay. So I said, well, I want to help like give somebody an outlet that was in treatment. Maybe they can come work out with us one night a week. And we did it for free. And we'd get 20, 30 people every week. Serious. And we were having our 2-year anniversary until coronavirus hit. But we'll have a big celebration once this goes away. Yeah.
Very cool.
So and that's the way I stay sober is helping, being available and helping others.
Well, we talked about that before we started today is, step 12 is reach out and help someone else who's been struggling because of, now that you've had this awakening. And I love that because I really believe if you master that step, you'll never touch another drop or a drug or anything. Yeah. And so, but that's why I love you, Jared, because you really are passionate about helping other people. And, we know a lot of the same people and they can't say enough good about you, dude.
It's good to know. That's good to hear.
It's all good, dude.
Yeah, that's good.
And, going back in your story, as I sit there and listen to your story, if we go back when you were talking about how, kind of your parents instilled in you hard work, you had to kind of pay your own way kind of thing. Yeah. And what I see now of what you're doing now, it's almost like that cultivation, even at the time you didn't notice or appreciate it, but because of that, look, this is what you're doing now. You're a hard worker. You got your own business. You're working on this brand. You want to bring awareness. You want to help people. And it wouldn't happen if you weren't a hard worker. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just saw that correlation there.
Yeah, it's cool to see, where because I love the thought of like generational people that worked hard and you pass the legacy, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, there you go.
And my dad can be proud and my mom can be proud of what they've instilled in me, even with all the teeth gnashing and clawing, that I put in.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. So.
Well, I really believe that addiction's your wake-up call to your greatness. And I think you went through all of that so you could do what you're doing now. Yeah. And that's why you're so good at it. I really believe that, dude.
I appreciate it.
It's just so cool to see this. Well, if you could maybe give our listeners a challenge, just maybe someone's hearing your story right now and they're going, man, I'm struggling too, or I've got a problem with some lower tabs or anything. What advice or challenge could you give our listeners that are hearing your story?
That there's an answer, that there's help. There's people out there that are willing to give you the solace and the respite you need. There's a calm in the storm you're in, because I would wake up and when I would be going to my dealer's house to buy more lower tabs, I'd be in tears, because I didn't want to go buy lower tabs, but I had to, that's the way I felt.
Right.
And just,
Yeah.
And because physically I needed it. And so there's an answer. There's a different way of living. Had a best friend that just checked into treatment 2 days ago, who was we thought he was going to be dead. And, and I just felt so bad for him because he's got 2 kids like me, and there's an answer to the pain and the misery, and it's recovery. And
I love that.
Recovery is everything you want it to be. Like my life is so good today. And I know that's not what people want to hear that are struggling, my life sucks right now.
Yeah, I don't.
My life sucked for a long time. But then when I realized get out of my own way and let others help and be honest, that's when I started helping others. And then that's when things started changing. My construction company, we hire guys out of prison that have struggled. Like I was just counting, we have 10 employees. It's a small company, but 8 of the 10, including me, are in recovery. Wow. In some form or another. Cool. And so we got 2 guys starting on Monday that are the same, just trying, and we don't know what's going to happen. We try and help. We give them that opportunity. It's up to them to take it. And if not, we'll just say, well, thank you, but we're here for you if you need help, in your recovery. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just, so there's help out there. There's an answer. There's, there is a God who loves me. There's a God who loves you. There's a God who loves all of us. And so, we've just got to reach out and find that.
Yeah. Love that, Jared. Very good advice. Very good challenge. And I agree with you, man. It's, if you're in a dark place right now, and I can relate to, I've been there too. And there, it does get better, and reach out, and because there's so many people that want to help. And I think that's why we go through challenges, is that now we can turn back and help others get to where we're at. How did you get through this, Jared? How did you make it? And it's good to hear your story. It's just really inspiring.
Yeah, I'm just blessed. Like, I'm honored to be here. I was able to go speak at a treatment center 2 weeks ago with the coronavirus, and it's cool to be on this side of things where people, you're doing something, not that you need the praise or applause, but it shows the way you're living is being noticed, and that you can help better other people's lives. So I'm honored to do this kind of stuff. It's scary.
Yeah.
So, but
there's no greater high than this,
I
though,
know.
right?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good.
Well, you're awesome, man. Yeah. Well, if someone who's hearing this story and they want to get to know you better, or ask you a question, or follow you, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
So Jared at recoverystrong.com, Jared. That's how you spell it. Okay. Instagram, you could just hashtag recoverystrong, and you'll see a lot of our posts.
You'll get there. Yeah.
People that follow us, because we sell a lot of apparel through, we ship a lot out of state, and it's cool to see that brand kind of grow and blossom. And so there's that. There's Facebook, Recovery Strong Facebook group. And they can reach me out on Instagram, live_recovery_strong. So Recovery Strong was taken, so I don't have that one. But so that's the best way. And I get people all the time just reaching out, from all over the country. Actually, it's cool. I don't have a ton of followers, but to have somebody reach out and ask, say I've helped them or inspired them through exercise, because I post a lot of stuff about mental and physical health. And
love it.
And, and one thing I've been doing this week, and this is cool, is I've been getting up early and working out. And so that right there has helped me a ton just in the last few days, like getting up, being productive in the morning. Because when I got sober, I was scared to wake up. I didn't want to face the day. And so now I'm still scared to get up a lot of times, but I get up and I just, let's do this today.
Wow.
What can I do to be better today?
Yeah.
So
very cool.
So there's the social medias.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, I want to thank you for spending some time with us today and being vulnerable and honoring us with your story and how you overcame your adversity and your addiction. And it's just really inspiring for all of us, including myself. It really makes me want to do better, as I hear what you're doing. It's so cool.
Yeah, you're doing awesome. So I appreciate you having me.
You betcha. Well, there you go, folks. Another amazing story from another amazing person, Jared Shaw. Please follow him. Please reach out to him and check out his brand, man. He's got, not only is it a cool brand, I'm telling you, it's some of the most comfortable apparel I've ever put on.
I appreciate that.
So, yeah, reach out to him and get some of that and spread the word. And thank you again for believing in me. And again, Veracity Networks, thanks for the sponsorship. Love you so much. And till next time, folks.